It's not about us anymore. It's about a future.
The Walking Dead saga continues with my two favorite characters, Rick and Michonne, and The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. So we're going to catch you up on their past and explain why this is The Walking Dead's epic love story. We're also going to explain why Michonne and no other character is the perfect person to go looking for Rick Grimes. Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm McLarty, and for years, Rick and Michonne were the heart of The Walking Dead. But in Season 9, we saw Rick Grimes leave the show.
Bye, Felicia. As
a horde of walkers approached, Rick shot at this stack of dynamite, blowing up the bridge before the walkers could cross. In Rick's final moment, he was suffering from a severe loss of blood and had an experience in his own mind about his found family.
I found him.
And that's exactly what he and Michonne built over all the seasons of The Walking Dead, a found family, a bond that you could argue is even stronger than blood. When the bridge blew, Rick was thrown into the water, and he was then found by Jadis and taken to a military camp via helicopter.
Wait, slow down, he was what?
I know, it's a lot. And I'll grant you that at the time it may have seemed a little confusing.
I don't understand what's happening.
But The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Lived, is going to answer all of our burning questions about where Rick Grimes was actually taken in his final episode. In Season 10, we saw Michonne leave the show as well in search of Rick.
Yeah, why would she leave her and Rick's kids behind to go find him?
Don't worry, buddy, we have the answers. Rick and Michonne's goal wasn't just to survive, but to live. And that's what The Ones Who Live is going to be about. Before we get rolling though, I want to thank AMC for sponsoring this video. We have been huge fans of The Walking Dead for over a decade, and we are very proud to partner with them to cover this show. The Walking Dead is such an important show to me personally, and we love being able to break it down for you every single week. Subscribe to AMC Plus to watch more of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live by clicking our link in the description to sign up for a free trial. Terms and conditions apply. So in this video, we want to take a look back at the key moments between Rick and Michonne from the original series that have led us to this long-awaited reunion, and why Michonne is the perfect character to find Rick and bring him home. Now, since The Walking Dead series finale, we have gotten a few spin-off shows following some of our favorite characters. We got Dead City, featuring Negan and Maggie banding together to save little Herschel in a post-apocalyptic New York City. And we got the Daryl Dixon show, which featured Daryl going to find Rick and winding up in France. There, we saw Daryl also embark on a mission to save a little boy who was in danger. Now, I'm mentioning these two series because Maggie, Negan, and Daryl all would have been interesting characters to see go find Rick and The Ones Who Live. Maggie and Rick go all the way back to Season 2 at the farm. They've saved each other's lives time and time again and are practically family. And Maggie likely feels guilty for Rick's disappearance since it was her pursuit of Negan that led Rick to this moment at the bridge. The same is true for Daryl. Rick and Daryl were brothers, and Daryl definitely harbors a lot of guilt for his role in leading Rick to his brutal fate at the bridge. So seeing Daryl be the one to travel and find Rick and The Ones Who Live would have been awesome. Seeing these two brothers reunited would have been some A+ TV. And then of course there's Negan. Rick and Negan didn't exactly end on good terms, and Rick doesn't know about Negan's good guy turn. Now, I've referenced episode 904, The Obliged, twice now with Maggie and Daryl's attempt on Negan's life, and how that led to Rick's arrival at the bridge in episode 905, What Comes After. But Maggie and Daryl aren't the only ones that could be carrying guilt for that tragic day. Negan could be as well. The events of those two episodes showed us Maggie and Daryl going against Rick and attempting to execute Negan within his jail cell. Rick Grimes saved Negan's life that day, and for that, Negan should be grateful. A series showing Negan embarking on a mission to bring Rick back home to Michonne and their children, Judith and RJ, would have been really interesting to see. I would have especially loved seeing the look on Rick's face when he and Negan meet again.
Careful how you're looking at me, Rick.
But as cool as all that would have been, here's why Michonne is actually the best choice to go find Rick. Rick and Michonne met back in Season 3 of the series during the war with the governor.
We're not gonna hurt you unless you try something stupid first. All right?
Michonne came to the prison with baby formula for Judith, and little did we know that Michonne was going to become the woman that little Judith would come to call mom. During the war with the prison, Rick wasn't himself. He was a little crazy.
I can't help you. Get out. Get out.
He was suspicious of Michonne and any outsider for that matter. And when the governor agreed to leave Rick and his family alone in exchange for Michonne, Rick actually considered it.
One woman worth all those lives in your prison.
But Rick saw something in Michonne and couldn't bring himself to do it.
Must have been something else then.
And oh my God, we have to talk about that clip. Now, I know this was over 10 years ago, but this little up-down look that Rick gave Michonne was the talk of the town at the time. And while the two wouldn't become a couple for another few seasons, this look teased that there was something special between the two. After the war with the governor, we saw Rick retire his wartime persona and take on the farmer Rick, peacetime persona, while Michonne was still consumed by a lust for revenge on the governor.
You gonna stay a little while?
Just a little while.
Following the governor's return, he nearly kills Rick, but just seconds before Rick's final breath, Michonne saves him. The two then got separated, as does the entire group. The group is separated for the remainder of the season except for Rick and Michonne. Michonne manages to reunite with Rick the following episode. Now, the bond between these two characters was so strong, nothing could keep them apart. They found each other when it seemed impossible, just like they will when they reunite in The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. During Rick and Michonne's time on the road, their battles with the cannibals of Terminus, and their journey to Alexandria, we saw Rick and Michonne's roles flip. Once, they were both burdened with the pain of loss and desire for revenge. Rick was able to find his way out of that darkness, but when he fell back in face first, it was Michonne who pulled him out. When the group tries to acclimate to their new life in Alexandria, Rick and Michonne are made constables of the town. When Rick snaps, it's Michonne who steps in before he can cause any more damage.
I'm not gonna stand by.
Michonne didn't hit Rick to save wife-beater Pete, she hit Rick to save him from himself. Michonne knew that they needed Alexandria to remain their home, not for their own sake, but for Rick's children, Carl and Judith. She couldn't allow Rick to do something that would wreck their ability to find a new home in Alexandria, and she couldn't allow Rick to do something that he couldn't walk back from. Granted, Rick does end up killing Pete, but it was only after he killed Reg.
Do it.
Rick was still teetering on the line that Michonne was trying to keep him from crossing.
I hit my limit. I screwed up.
For the first time in a long time, Rick and Michonne had reached a period of shared peace. For all their time knowing each other, there had been very few moments of calm. One of them was often in a state of rage, while the other acted as an anchor. But now, the two were finally able to enjoy the peace and prosperity they had fought for so long, or so they thought. Negan's arrival threw a wrench, or should I say a barbed wire bat, into the peace they'd fought so hard for. Negan's arrival broke Rick. He became submissive and defeated, while Michonne returned to her rage-filled demeanor that we hadn't seen since her hunt for the governor. Negan placed Rick and Michonne on polar opposites on how to approach this new war. In prior situations, only one of them would have been so far off the mark, and it'd be the other to reel them back in, just like they had done for each other many times before. But with Negan, we saw them both firmly on their respective sides of how to respond to Negan's reign. They're playing a game of tug of war.
We play by their rules, and we get some kind of life.
What kind of a life?
Eventually, Michonne was able to convince Rick to stand up to Negan, but Rick was able to convince Michonne that they didn't need to kill Negan and that there had to be something after.
There's gotta be something after.
You'll be an example of what this will be.
Once again, Rick and Michonne were able to pull each other from the dark corners that they had retreated to. Michonne also filled a major void in Rick, Carl, and Judith's lives following the death of Lori and Shane. Michonne was a best friend and a confidant who went on to become a wife and a mother. But it wasn't a one-way street. Rick, Carl, and Judith filled a void in Michonne's life as well. Before the apocalypse, Michonne had a family.
Hope we're not boring you, peanut.
Now, if you watch any episode of the original series before starting The Ones Who Live, you probably want to check out Rick's final episode, episode 905, as well as Michonne's final episode, 1013, when she discovers that Rick is still alive. But if you have time, I highly recommend watching Season 7, Episode 12, Say Yes. This episode was admittedly a little slower, but looking back on it now, it was a pivotal episode to get us to this very moment, the reunion of Rick and Michonne.
Michonne.
What?
Michonne. It's a thing on the internet, people say. It's called a ship name.
Oh, nice, high five. The episode showed us the combined strength of Michonne.
Thank you, very good.
These two saw each other for who they were, scars and all. They had both been through unspeakable trauma, but the love and respect they shared formed an unbreakable bond. These two characters fought side by side to finally build a place that they could call home. And as usual, right as the time came for them to rest and enjoy the new life they had built, it was torn away from them. And as we saw in the Walking Dead series finale, they are not accepting defeat.
We're the ones who live.
In the comics and in the show, we hear Rick Grimes say,
We are the Walking Dead.
Now, this has always been meant to flip the script on the zombie genre that this show exists within. The walkers aren't the Walking Dead, the survivors are. They're all living on borrowed time. They cheated death, and every moment is one they should be grateful for, and every moment is a moment worth fighting for. The title, The Ones Who Live, takes a more optimistic approach to Rick's iconic speech. The Ones Who Live is still in reference to the same people Rick had previously called the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead referred to survival, not living. Survival was all about keeping their hearts beating, but living is giving your heart something to beat for. In fact, there's a great line from Michonne to Rick that echoes this sentiment exactly, that actually came not too long after Rick's We Are the Walking Dead speech.
It's a chance. Instead of just being out here, instead of just making it. Because right now, this is what making it looks like.
This speech to me was the first rendition of the Ones Who Live speech. She drew a line in the sand and defied Rick's characterization of what it means to live. And that newfound meaning of life that these two characters share is what forms their unbreakable bond. No longer are we seeing just Rick coming to Michonne's rescue or Michonne coming to Rick's rescue. They're no longer playing that game of tug of war. The Ones Who Live is showing us two forces of nature defying all the odds stacked against them and running full speed ahead toward one another, proving that the bond that was made back in season 3 can never and will never be broken. And that's why Michonne had to leave in order to find Rick. In order to have their home, in order to not just survive but live, and to provide a life for their children, Michonne knew that they needed to be together, because a life with all of them together is the only life worth living. So guys, thanks so much to AMC, AMC Plus, and The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live for sponsoring this video. And we are genuinely excited for the return of these two icons, and I know Colton is as well. He is a massive Walking Dead fan, and he has the biggest man crush ever on Rick Grimes that I've ever seen. So we're going to be here every week covering the Walking Dead saga, and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Plus to watch more of The Ones Who Live by clicking our link in the description to sign up for a free trial. Again, big shout out to the writer of this video, Mr. Colton Ogburn. You can find his socials below. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Brianna.